It was a cold, damp night when Sarah decided to visit the old house at the edge of the woods. The place had been abandoned for years, but strange rumors about it had always circulated in the small town. Some said it was haunted, others whispered of dark rituals. But Sarah had never believed in such things. She was a skeptic, a firm believer in science, and she had come to put the rumors to rest. As she approached the house, its broken windows stared back at her like empty eyes. The door creaked as she pushed it open, the smell of mildew and dust filling the air. The floorboards groaned under her feet as she stepped inside, the silence so thick it felt suffocating. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper and cobwebs clung to the corners. The faint sound of something scratching against the floor echoed from somewhere deeper in the house. Sarah froze. It was as though the house itself was alive, trying to warn her, but she shook her head, dismissing the sound. She made her way to the staircase, the wooden steps creaking with every step she took. As she reached the top, the temperature seemed to drop. The hallway stretched out before her, bathed in an eerie moonlight that filtered through the broken windows. At the end of the hall was a door, slightly ajar as though inviting her in. Against her better judgment, Sarah pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was darker than the rest of the house, and there was something unsettling about the shadows that seemed to move on their own. The air was thick, as if something ancient and forgotten lingered in the corners, waiting. Suddenly, a whisper broke the silence. It was soft at first, like a breath against her ear. "Leave," it said, barely audible. Sarah's heart raced. She spun around, but no one was there. She stood frozen, her mind trying to reason with what she'd just heard. "It's just the wind," she whispered to herself. "There's no one here." But the whispers came again, louder this time. "Leave your stay forever." Her legs moved before her brain could process the fear, and she ran down the hallway, but the shadows seemed to follow her, stretching and shifting as though they were alive. She reached the stairs and hurried down, but just as she reached the bottom, she felt something brush against her arm. She whipped around, her breath catching in her throat. Nothing. Only the darkness, suffocating and endless. As she stumbled toward the front door, she heard it. The whispers grew louder, more frantic, as if something was pleading with her to turn around. She opened the door, and with one last glance at the house, she ran into the night, her heart pounding in her chest. But as she looked back, the door slammed shut behind her. The house stood still, silent, as though nothing had ever happened. And then she saw it, the shadows in the windows, shifting and moving as if watching her, waiting. The house was never empty.